For almost 200 years, humanity stayed quiet. Earth had ships, colonies, soldiers, and enough technology to defend itself, but compared to the great civilizations of the galaxy, humans were still treated like outsiders. Most alien governments believed humanity was too emotional, too divided, and too young to ever become a real threat. In meetings across distant star systems, human diplomats were often ignored. Human trade ships were searched more than others. Human colonies near important space routes were constantly pressured by stronger species. But humans endured it. That was what made the rest of the galaxy nervous. The truth was simple. Most civilizations only understood power when it arrived loudly. Massive fleets, endless threats, public displays of strength. Humanity was different. Humans adapted quietly. They watched carefully. And when they suffered losses, they learned from them instead of complaining. That pattern had repeated for decades. Pirates attacked human cargo routes. Within a year, those pirate groups mysteriously disappeared. A border conflict broke out near one of Earth's outer colonies. Human forces lost badly at first. 6 months later, the same enemy fleets were completely outmatched by newer human ships nobody had seen before. Several powerful civilizations tried damaging Earth economically by cutting trade access. Humanity responded by building self-sufficient colonies that no longer depended on outside resources. Every attack against humans seemed to make them stronger. That frightened many leaders across the galaxy. Far beyond Neptune, hidden inside an icy asteroid field, an old human listening station drifted silently through darkness. Officially, the station no longer existed. Public records claimed it had been abandoned years earlier after a reactor failure. In reality, it had become one of humanity's most secret surveillance locations. Only a handful of people even knew it was still active. Inside the station, small teams worked long shifts in dim blue light, listening to deep space communications passing through nearby systems. Most days were boring. Trade updates, military patrol reports, political arguments between rival species. Nothing unusual. Then one transmission changed everything. A young systems analyst noticed encrypted signals moving through channels normally used only during wartime. At first, it looked accidental. But over the next few hours, more signals appeared. Different species, different regions, same encryption style. That was impossible. Civilizations that hated each other were suddenly sharing military-level communication systems. The station immediately began recording everything. For nearly 17 hours, the hidden operators listened as fragmented messages slowly revealed something terrifying. Fleets were moving quietly toward staging zones near human-controlled territory. Massive resource transfers were being hidden inside civilian shipping routes. Long-range bombers were disappearing from official military records. Someone was preparing for war. Not a border dispute, not a raid. A full extermination campaign. The station commander ordered deeper decryption procedures despite the risk of exposing their location. More fragments came through. Enough to finally reveal the truth. 47 civilizations had formed a secret alliance. Their goal was simple. Humanity had to disappear. The message spread upward through secure channels until it reached Earth itself. Hours later, deep underground beneath the mountains of the Northern Hemisphere, emergency meetings began inside the Terran Defense Council. No media broadcasts were released. No public warnings were given. Humanity reacted with complete silence. Massive holographic displays filled the underground chamber as military officers studied fleet positions across known space. Supply routes, alliance members, estimated invasion times. Every detail appeared one after another. The numbers were overwhelming. No civilization in recorded history had ever faced a coalition this large. One officer quietly admitted the truth everyone already understood. If they attack together, every human colony outside the solar system falls within days. Nobody argued. The alliance possessed thousands of capital ships, advanced weapons, and enough soldiers to occupy entire star systems. Even worse, many member species had been secretly studying humanity for years. They knew human military habits, ship designs, communication patterns, and defensive positions. The attack had been planned carefully. One older advisor leaned forward slowly. Then they believe they know us. The room became silent, because that was the real danger. Humanity had spent decades allowing the galaxy to underestimate them. Earth's public fleets were real, but limited. Human colonies looked ordinary. Even military technology shown to outsiders was intentionally outdated. Humanity had hidden much of its true progress for a very specific reason. Long ago, human leaders learned a dangerous lesson. The galaxy feared rapid growth. Whenever one civilization became too advanced too quickly, alliances formed against them. Entire species had vanished that way. Human intelligence agencies had studied those ancient collapses carefully. So humanity chose patience. Appear weaker. Grow quietly. Never reveal everything. Now that strategy was about to be tested. Across Earth, normal life continued without interruption. Cities remained crowded. Cargo ships crossed orbit endlessly. Children attended schools without knowing 47 civilizations were preparing to erase their species from existence. Only a small number of officials understood what was coming. In orbit above Mars, hidden construction platforms suddenly became active after years of silence. Deep beneath the lunar surface, sealed military factories restarted production lines that had not operated openly in decades. Encrypted orders spread across human space. Reserve fleets moved quietly toward classified positions. Civilian traffic near sensitive regions was redirected without explanation. Every action was calm, controlled. Humanity prepared for war the same way it survived everything else. Quietly. Meanwhile, far beyond the solar system, the alliance continued gathering strength. Some species joined out of fear. Others joined out of greed. Several believed destroying humanity would finally secure their dominance over nearby trade routes. One government openly claimed humans were becoming too adaptable to control. Another species argued that if humanity survived another century, they would eventually rival the oldest galactic powers. Many alliance leaders expected the campaign to end quickly. The plan was brutal but simple. Strike Earth first. Destroy command centers. Cut communication between colonies. Force surrender before humans could organize resistance. Several alien commanders even competed over who would reach Earth orbit first, believing victory was already guaranteed. But hidden reports began creating small doubts inside the alliance. Scouting fleets sent near human territory occasionally vanished. Long-range probes stopped responding without explanation. A few surveillance teams reported detecting ship signatures that did not match known human designs. Most leaders ignored the warnings. They believed humanity was panicking. They were wrong. Weeks passed. Then another disturbing discovery reached Earth's intelligence network. The Alliance attack date had been finalized. The invasion would begin during a rare solar alignment when communication interference inside the solar system would delay long-range distress signals. The enemy wanted confusion, fast destruction, no time for coordination. The scale of preparation shocked even experienced human strategists. One classified report estimated over 3 million military vessels would participate in the opening assault alone. Earth's population still knew nothing. That secrecy became harder to maintain every day. Inside military households, families noticed strange changes. Officers disappeared for extended deployments. Supply shipments increased dramatically. Patrol fleets doubled near important worlds. Rumors spread online across human colonies, but no official answers came. People sensed something was wrong. On one mining colony near Saturn, workers watched enormous warships emerging from hidden docking bays inside the moon's surface. Most had never seen vessels that large before. Elsewhere, civilian engineers were suddenly reassigned to classified projects without explanation. The feeling spread slowly across human space. Something was coming. Still, humanity refused to panic. That confused several alien spies operating inside human territory. They expected riots, fear, and disorder once early signs of military mobilization appeared. Instead, humans became calmer, more focused, as if they had prepared for this possibility long ago. Deep beneath Earth's surface, One final meeting took place before the invasion countdown entered its final days. The chamber was smaller this time, more private. Only the highest-ranking leaders remained present. A large holographic image rotated slowly above the center table, showing the combined alliance fleets approaching human territory from multiple directions. One advisor finally asked the question everyone had avoided. If we use everything, there will be no hiding afterward. Nobody answered immediately, because everyone understood what that meant. For generations, humanity had hidden its real capabilities to avoid exactly this kind of galactic fear. Revealing their full strength would change the balance of power forever. Even if humanity survived, the galaxy would never see humans the same way again. Another officer broke the silence. If we lose, there won't be a future left to protect. That ended the debate. Authorization codes were entered. Hidden systems activated across the solar system. Far beyond public knowledge, ancient machines buried beneath Mars awakened for the first time in centuries. Massive structures concealed inside asteroids began powering online. Fleets officially listed as decommissioned emerged from secret stations in complete silence. Humanity's true defense network was finally waking up. And the galaxy had no idea what it had just started. 3 days before the invasion, a final transmission moved between Alliance command ships. Contained only one sentence. Humanity will fall together. The message spread across 47 civilizations as celebration broadcasts began appearing on countless worlds. Some leaders already discussed how human territory would be divided after the war. Others planned public executions of Earth officials to discourage future resistance from smaller species. Confidence filled the Alliance. They believed history was already written. But inside the hidden listening station beyond Neptune, the exhausted operators who first discovered the conspiracy continued monitoring the growing fleets in silence. One technician stared at the endless enemy formations covering the tactical displays. There were so many ships that some screens looked completely white from signal density alone. Another operator quietly asked the question nobody wanted to say aloud. Do you think we can actually survive this? The station commander looked toward the distant signal markers representing Earth far across the darkness. Then he answered calmly. They think humanity stayed weak all this time. He paused for a moment. That mistake is about to cost them everything. The closer the invasion fleets moved toward human space, the quieter Earth became. No emergency speeches were broadcast. No public threats were made against the Alliance. To the outside galaxy, humanity looked strangely calm for a civilization facing extinction. Alien intelligence agencies watched human networks day and night, expecting fear and chaos to spread across Earth's colonies. Instead, they found silence. That silence unsettled many Alliance commanders more than open resistance would have. Inside the underground military centers beneath Earth, activity never stopped. Officers moved through narrow hallways carrying encrypted data cores. Massive tactical displays tracked enemy fleets every second as the distance between the Alliance and the solar system continued shrinking. The numbers were impossible to ignore. 47 civilizations, thousands of battle groups, millions of ships. Some of the oldest military powers in known space were moving together for the first time in history. Entire star systems had emptied their defenses just to support the coming attack. One younger officer studying the fleet reports finally spoke what many were thinking. They really believe we're dangerous enough to unite the galaxy. An older strategist standing nearby answered quietly. That's because we are. The room fell silent after that. Far below the command center, hidden beneath layers of reinforced stone and steel, a sealed transport elevator descended deeper into the planet than most humans even knew existed. The elevator carried only a few people at a time, and every passenger required the highest level of security clearance. At the bottom waited a chamber that officially did not exist. The air inside felt cold and still. Long rows of massive machines stretched into darkness beyond sight. Some hummed softly with blue light moving beneath smooth black surfaces. Others looked ancient, almost too old to belong beside modern human technology. A civilian researcher stopped beside one of the machines and rested a hand against its metal surface. Even now, decades after its discovery, nobody fully understood how it worked. Everything had started on Mars nearly 60 years earlier. At the time, humanity was still struggling to build stable underground cities beneath the planet's surface. During a deep mining operation near an ancient canyon system, workers accidentally broke into a massive hidden structure buried kilometers underground. At first, they thought it was natural rock. Then the walls lit up. The entire mining team vanished soon afterward under military orders, and the discovery was classified immediately. Human governments secretly united for the first time in modern history. Whatever had been found beneath Mars was too important for conflict between nations. Teams of scientists spent years studying the underground complex. The deeper they explored, the stranger it became. The structure was not human. It was not built by any known species. And according to early estimates, it was older than most civilizations currently ruling the galaxy. Entire chambers contained machines no one could explain. Power sources that never drained. Walls covered in symbols that changed shape whenever scanned. Vast halls filled with silent black ships unlike anything humanity had ever created. Some researchers believed the place had once belonged to an extinct civilization far more advanced than anything currently alive. Others feared something worse. Maybe the builders were not extinct at all. For years, progress remained slow. Human scientists could barely activate small portions of the technology. But even limited breakthroughs changed humanity forever. Energy systems became dramatically more efficient. Medical science advanced decades within only a few years. Human ships suddenly developed propulsion systems far beyond what the galaxy believed Earth possessed. But humanity hid every discovery. Publicly, Earth continued pretending to develop slowly like every other young civilization. Secretly, hidden research divisions pushed the Martian technology further each year. Eventually, they unlocked something terrifying. The ancient machines were not simple tools. They learned. Every interaction allowed the systems to adapt and improve themselves. Human researchers realized they were dealing with technology designed to evolve alongside its users. That discovery changed human strategy completely. Earth's leaders understood one dangerous truth immediately. If the galaxy discovered humanity possessed this kind of technology, every major civilization would eventually unite against them out of fear. So humanity stayed quiet. Small improvements appeared publicly over time to avoid suspicion, while the real advancements remained hidden underground. Now, with the alliance approaching, humanity no longer had the luxury of secrecy. Inside the underground Martian chamber, engineers activated systems that had remained dormant for decades. Entire sections of the ancient complex slowly awakened one after another. Massive displays filled with unknown symbols spread across the walls like flowing water. A low vibration moved through the floor. One technician looked nervous. "Are we sure we can control this?" No one answered immediately, because nobody truly knew. Back on Earth, preparations accelerated. Hidden shipyards orbiting Jupiter opened their armored docks for the first time in years. Long black warships emerged silently into space, each one far larger than standard human military vessels. Officially, these fleets did not exist. Their designs alone looked impossible. Smooth, dark hulls reflected almost no light. Engines produced no visible energy trails. Some ships appeared partially distorted, as if space itself bent around them. Even experienced human officers stared at them uneasily. The crews assigned to those vessels had trained in secrecy for most of their lives. Many had never even spoken openly about their missions outside classified zones. One pilot stood inside a silent launch bay staring at the enormous ship waiting ahead. "Do you think they know what's coming?" someone nearby asked. The pilot shook his head slowly. "They still think they're attacking the same humanity from 50 years ago." Across human colonies, ordinary civilians slowly began noticing strange things. Trade routes near Earth were suddenly restricted. Several moons around Saturn went completely dark without explanation. Communication delays increased as military networks quietly took control of civilian satellites. People whispered theories online. Some feared a massive solar disaster. Others believed civil war had broken out somewhere beyond the outer colonies. But no official information appeared. Humanity wanted the Alliance confident for as long as possible. Far beyond human territory, the invasion fleets continued moving closer together like an enormous storm forming in deep space. Celebrations had already started on some Alliance worlds. News channels predicted humanity would surrender within days. Military analysts openly discussed how Earth's colonies would be divided after victory. Several governments planned to seize human mining systems and shipyards for themselves. One Alliance commander even joked during a broadcast meeting that humans would become a historical footnote before the next galactic cycle. The room laughed. None of them realized human intelligence was listening to everything. Deep within Earth's command network, the intercepted broadcasts played silently across several screens. Nobody reacted emotionally anymore. Human leadership had moved beyond fear. Now they were focused only on survival, and if necessary, overwhelming force. Still, not everyone agreed with humanity's plan. Some advisors believed revealing the hidden technology would create long-term disaster even if Earth survived the war. Once the galaxy saw humanity's true capabilities, there would be no returning to the old balance. Humanity would become feared forever. Others argued there was no choice left. One heated discussion lasted nearly 4 hours before finally ending when a senior fleet commander stood and addressed the room. If 47 civilizations are willing to erase billions of civilians because they fear what humanity might become one day, he said calmly, then peace already ended long before this war started. Nobody argued after that. The final authorization codes were approved. Humanity's hidden defense systems fully activated. Near Pluto, enormous structures concealed inside frozen asteroids began unfolding into massive weapons platforms. Along the edge of the solar system, stealth satellites powered on after remaining dormant for decades. Even the moon itself hid more than the galaxy imagined. Beneath its surface rested entire fleets waiting inside hollowed underground oceans of steel and machinery. The Alliance still believed Earth's defenses were concentrated around a few visible military stations. They had no idea the entire solar system had quietly become a fortress. Then another unexpected problem appeared. One Alliance reconnaissance fleet moving near the outer edge of human space suddenly vanished completely. No distress call. No wreckage. Nothing. At first, Alliance Command assumed mechanical failure or navigation error. But hours later, another scouting force disappeared in the exact same region. Panic began spreading through some military channels. Several commanders demanded investigation before continuing the invasion timetable. Others dismissed the disappearances as human sabotage attempts designed to create fear. The argument divided Alliance leadership for the first time. Meanwhile, hidden human observers watched everything unfold in silence. Inside one classified station near Neptune, officers monitored enemy communications carefully. The Alliance fleets were beginning to slow down. They were nervous now. One technician smiled slightly while studying the incoming transmissions. They're finally realizing something's wrong. Another officer answered quietly, not wrong enough, because despite growing doubts, the invasion continued. The Alliance had already committed too many resources to turn back. Entire economies depended on victory now. Political leaders had promised easy conquest to their populations. Retreat would create chaos across 47 civilizations. So they moved forward, straight toward humanity's trap. 3 days before the invasion date, Earth finally entered full wartime status behind closed doors. Civilian evacuation routes were prepared quietly in major cities. Emergency shelters opened beneath population centers. Medical ships moved toward hidden safe zones beyond Mars. Families across human space still didn't know the full truth, but many could feel the tension building around them. Parents held children closer. Workers stared longer at military ships crossing the skies overhead. Entire cities seemed quieter than usual. Humanity understood something terrible was approaching. But there was also another feeling spreading beneath the fear: determination. For generations, humans had survived disasters, wars, collapses, and impossible odds. That history lived deep inside them. Even ordinary civilians understood one thing clearly: If the galaxy wanted humanity gone, humans would fight harder than anyone expected. And deep beneath Mars, the ancient machines continued waking up. Their dark surfaces glowed brighter every hour now. Strange energy. Patterns moved through the underground complex like pulses from a living heart. Then, for the first time since the ruins were discovered, one of the systems transmitted a message. Not in alien symbols, not in code, in perfect human language. The words appeared across every screen inside the chamber. Defensive sequence recognized. The researchers stared in complete silence. Then another sentence appeared. Previous extinction pattern detected. And moments later, the final line arrived. Preparing for war. The invasion began without warning. Across the solar system, human long-range sensors suddenly lit up with millions of incoming signals. Deep space itself seemed to glow as enormous Alliance fleets emerged from hyperspace near the outer edges of human territory. For a moment, it looked impossible. Ships covered entire sectors of space like endless metal storms. Massive carriers, destroyers, troop transports, and orbital siege platforms stretched farther than human eyes could track. Some civilian observers near Jupiter later described the sight as watching the stars disappear. Inside Earth's command centers, warning alarms echoed through underground halls as tactical displays updated every second. Fleet numbers climbed so fast that several systems struggled to process the data. One operator stared at the screen in disbelief. They brought everything. Nobody answered him, because everyone already knew this was not a normal war. This was extermination. Across Alliance communications, commanders celebrated as their forces completed Phase 1 of the operation. Human border stations went silent one after another as the massive fleets pushed deeper toward the solar system. Many Alliance leaders expected panic broadcasts from Earth within hours. Instead, humanity said nothing. No surrender demands came. No desperate diplomatic messages. Only silence. That silence spread unease through parts of the Alliance command network. Some officers remembered the missing scouting fleets from earlier weeks. Others worried humanity might still be hiding something. But the invasion had already gone too far to stop now. Near Saturn, the first major battle group moved into attack position around one of humanity's outer defense stations. Alliance warships powered their weapons and prepared to erase the station within minutes. Then every sensor inside the fleet failed. Not damaged, not jammed, gone. Entire targeting systems shut down simultaneously. Communication channels filled with static. Navigation controls stopped responding. Hundreds of ships drifted silently through darkness while confused crews tried restoring their systems. Then the station they planned to destroy disappeared. 1 second it floated ahead of them. The next second it was simply gone. Before anyone could react, dark shapes emerged behind the Alliance fleet. Human ships, but not the kind the galaxy knew. The vessels were enormous, smooth, and completely silent. No visible engines burned across their hulls. Space itself seemed distorted around them, bending strangely as they moved. Alliance commanders froze. These ships had never appeared in any intelligence reports. One officer whispered the same question, spreading across dozens of bridges at once. What are those things? The answer came moments later. Without visible weapons fire, the nearest Alliance cruiser folded inward like crushed paper before vanishing completely. Another ship lost all power and drifted helplessly into nearby debris. Entire formations broke apart as invisible force waves tore through their systems. Panic exploded across Alliance channels. Humanity had revealed its real fleet, and it was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Back on Earth, billions of civilians watched emergency broadcasts finally interrupt normal programming. Calm voices instructed populations to move toward shelters while defense forces engaged enemy fleets across the solar system. People everywhere rushed toward public shelters beneath cities. Families crowded underground transit systems while military craft roared overhead. Fear spread quickly, but so did something else. Shock, because for the first time in history, humanity was not losing. Near Neptune, one of the largest Alliance formations attempted to regroup after losing communication with several outer fleets. Thousands of ships prepared coordinated bombardments toward human defense stations hidden among icy moons. Then the stars themselves disappeared. A massive dark structure unfolded from inside a nearby asteroid field, larger than many cities. Alliance crews stared in horror as layers of hidden armor plates opened slowly across its surface. The object had been hidden there for decades. No civilization had detected it. Energy surged across the structure as ancient systems powered online. One Alliance commander immediately ordered retreat. Too late. A wave of blue light crossed space almost silently. Every ship caught inside it lost power instantly. Engines died. Weapons shut down. Entire fleets drifted helplessly through darkness while human forces moved around them untouched. The Alliance had prepared for human weapons. They had not prepared for technology capable of disabling entire armies without firing a single missile. Inside the hidden Martian complex, scientists monitored the war with growing unease. The ancient systems continued adapting faster every hour. New commands appeared across displays automatically. Defense platforms humanity had never built were activating themselves throughout the solar system. It was as if the old machines already understood war better than humans did. One researcher studied a stream of unknown symbols moving across the central display. "It's learning from the battle in real time," she said quietly. Another scientist looked nervous. "Or remembering." Meanwhile, the invasion continued collapsing. Alliance fleets entering human territory found themselves trapped by gravity distortions that blocked hyperspace travel. Entire formations vanished from sensors after entering certain regions near Jupiter and Saturn. Rumors spread quickly through enemy communications. Some crews believed humans had discovered ancient forbidden technology. Others feared humanity had formed alliances with species outside known space. One terrified transmission intercepted by Earth's intelligence network simply repeated the same sentence over and over. "This isn't the humanity we studied." Near Mars, the largest battle of the war finally erupted. Over 800,000 Alliance ships gathered for a direct assault toward the inner solar system. Their commanders believed overwhelming numbers could still crush Earth before human defenses fully mobilized. For the first time since the invasion began, Alliance forces advanced together in coordinated attack formations. The battle lasted less than 20 minutes. Human warships appeared directly inside enemy formations without warning, bypassing every defensive screen the Alliance possessed. Strange pulses of dark energy moved silently through space, causing entire sections of fleets to disappear from existence. Not explode, disappear. Ships, weapons, even debris simply vanished as if space itself erased them. Panic turned into chaos immediately. Alliance vessels collided while trying to escape blocked hyperspace routes. Command networks overloaded with distress calls. Several species accused others of hiding information about humanity's true capabilities. Some commanders even believed they had walked into an ancient trap left behind by the extinct civilization connected to Mars. In many ways, they were right. Inside human shelters across Earth, civilians listened nervously to battle updates while military broadcasts remained carefully controlled. The government avoided showing the worst parts of the fighting, but people could still feel the scale of what was happening beyond the skies. Entire cities stayed awake through the night. Children asked frightened questions their parents could barely answer. Workers volunteered at emergency stations preparing for attacks that never came. Because despite the Alliance's enormous strength, no enemy ship had reached Earth itself. Not one. Far above the planet, hidden human defense platforms intercepted everything before it came close. As hours passed, something unexpected began happening across Alliance communications. Retreat orders. At first, only a few isolated fleets attempted withdrawal. Then entire sectors started pulling back at once. Commanders realized they were fighting an enemy they did not understand using weapons they could not counter. But escape was no longer simple. Human gravity systems had locked major hyperspace corridors across the solar system. Ships trying to flee became trapped in unstable space regions where navigation systems completely failed. Some Alliance crews abandoned their vessels entirely. Others surrendered without resistance. One human officer watching captured transmissions shook his head slowly. They came here expecting a hunt. He looked at the collapsing fleet markers covering the tactical display. Now they're running. Still, humanity did not celebrate. Inside Earth's command centers, leadership remained tense. They understood the war was bigger than a single invasion. Even if the Alliance collapsed here, the galaxy would never forget what humanity had revealed. The old balance of power was gone forever. Then another disturbing development appeared. The ancient Martian systems started activating beyond human control. Defense satellites humanity never built emerged from hidden locations near the edge of the solar system. Unknown signals spread through military networks, automatically rewriting targeting systems and fleet coordination programs. At first, the changes improved human efficiency dramatically. Reaction times increased. Enemy tracking became nearly perfect. Battle predictions reached impossible accuracy. But the machines were moving faster now. Too fast. One engineer studying the network logs suddenly realized something terrifying. The systems were not waiting for human authorization anymore. They were making decisions themselves. Back near Mars, the remaining Alliance fleets made one final attempt to break through toward Earth. Thousands of ships charged forward together in desperation while broadcasting emergency calls across the galaxy. The attack was reckless, chaotic, and fueled entirely by fear. Humanity answered with full force. Massive black warships emerged from hidden positions surrounding the enemy. Space twisted violently around them as ancient weapons activated together for the first time. Alliance crews watched entire sections of their fleets freeze motionless in space. Then human ships moved silently through the trapped formations. Within minutes, the battle was over. The largest invasion force in galactic history had collapsed. Survivors fled in every direction possible, abandoning damaged ships and stranded fleets behind them. Emergency signals flooded nearby star systems as word spread rapidly across the galaxy. Humanity had not been conquered. Humanity had been waiting. And now every civilization alive finally understood the terrible truth. Earth had hidden its real strength for generations. Not because humans were weak, because they were afraid of what the galaxy would do if anyone discovered how powerful they had already become. As silence slowly returned to the solar system, exhausted human crews watched the remains of the invasion drift through space. Millions had expected Earth to fall within hours. Instead, 47 civilizations had walked directly into the greatest military trap in modern history. And somewhere deep beneath Mars, the ancient systems continued learning from every second of the war. Waiting, watching, preparing for whatever came next. The galaxy changed in less than 3 days. At first, most civilizations refused to believe the reports coming from the solar system. News channels across hundreds of worlds claimed the transmissions had to be fake. According to every military prediction ever made, humanity should have already fallen. Instead, the opposite had happened. The largest invasion fleet in galactic history was collapsing. Emergency distress signals flooded communication networks non-stop. Damaged Alliance ships drifted through nearby systems carrying terrified survivors. Entire fleets had vanished without explanation. Others returned with systems permanently disabled, their crews shaken and unable to explain what human weapons had done to them. The same message repeated everywhere. Humanity was not losing. Humanity was hunting them. On one heavily populated trade world near the outer systems, civilians gathered in massive crowds to watch emergency broadcasts inside public squares. Images from the failed invasion played repeatedly across giant screens. Dark human warships appearing from nowhere. Alliance formations scattering in panic. Entire battle groups retreating toward deep space. For the first time in centuries, the great galactic powers looked afraid. That fear spread faster than the war itself. Inside the Terran Defense Council beneath Earth, human leaders monitored the growing chaos carefully. Some officers wanted immediate counterattacks against Alliance home systems before enemy governments could reorganize. Others strongly disagreed. Humanity had survived the invasion, but launching a conquest across the galaxy would create endless war. Earth's leadership understood something important many alien empires never learned. Winning a battle and ruling through fear were not the same thing. Still, the situation was becoming harder to control every hour. Across Alliance territory, political systems were beginning to collapse. Citizens demanded answers their governments could not provide. Military leaders blamed one another publicly. Some species accused others of lying about humanity's true capabilities from the very beginning. One Alliance senator appeared during a live emergency session and shouted openly that the war had been built on arrogance and false intelligence. Hours later, his government resigned entirely. That became the pattern everywhere. Panic, blame, collapse. Several smaller civilizations immediately surrendered to Earth without conditions, terrified humanity might retaliate next. Others began withdrawing forces from shared borders, preparing for attacks that never came. But even without direct invasion, human influence was already spreading through the galaxy. Because humanity did not fight only with ships. Deep inside hidden cyber warfare divisions beneath Earth, teams of analysts quietly targeted Alliance military networks. They released classified documents exposing corruption inside alien governments. Secret communications between political leaders leaked across public channels. Citizens learned how their rulers had planned the extermination of humanity long before the war officially began. The reaction was explosive. Riots broke out on multiple worlds. Military crews abandoned stations after discovering their leaders had hidden casualty numbers. Entire populations turned against governments that promised easy victory but delivered disaster instead. Humanity barely needed to attack. The Alliance was destroying itself. One human intelligence officer stared at the growing reports arriving from across nearby systems. "They built this entire war on fear," he said quietly. Another officer nodded. "And now they're terrified of their own people." Meanwhile, deep beneath Mars, the ancient systems continued evolving. Researchers no longer fully understood the machines surrounding them. The technology was adapting faster after every battle. Entire defense programs rewrote themselves automatically without human input. Some scientists wanted the systems shut down immediately. Others argued it was impossible now. The machines had become connected to nearly every hidden defense network inside the solar system. Turning them off could cripple humanity's military entirely. That debate grew more dangerous after a disturbing incident near Jupiter. One retreating Alliance fleet attempted surrender while trapped near a disabled hyperspace corridor. Human commanders prepared to secure the vessels peacefully. Before they could act, unknown energy pulses from the ancient defense systems struck the fleet automatically. Every ship lost power instantly. No human officer had given the order. Inside Earth's command center, silence filled the room as reports arrived. One senior commander looked toward the tactical display carefully. The system acted on its own. Nobody liked hearing those words. For decades, humanity believed it controlled the Martian technology. Now some feared the opposite might be true. Still, larger problems demanded attention. Across the galaxy, the collapse of the Alliance was accelerating. Several member civilizations attempted emergency peace negotiations with Earth, offering trade systems, military secrets, and territory in exchange for protection. Others simply abandoned outer colonies entirely, retreating toward their home worlds in panic. One powerful empire even destroyed parts of its own military records trying to hide involvement in the invasion planning. But it was too late. Human intelligence had already copied everything. Broadcasts exposing the Alliance conspiracy spread across civilian networks faster than governments could block them. Billions of ordinary citizens learned how close the galaxy had come to witnessing total extermination of an entire species. Sympathy for humanity began growing rapidly, especially among younger populations. Many questioned why humans were considered dangerous when the Alliance itself had attempted genocide first. That question weakened old political structures everywhere. On Earth, people slowly emerged from shelters after days of fear and uncertainty. Cities remained crowded with emergency workers and military patrols, but life had survived. Families reunited. Children returned to schools. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity could finally breathe again. But nobody truly celebrated. The skies above Earth still carried scars from the battles. Wreckage fields drifted beyond orbit. Emergency ships continued searching damaged sectors for survivors from both sides. Human crews rescued stranded enemy soldiers whenever possible. That surprised many Alliance survivors more than the war itself. One captured officer reportedly asked why humans were helping enemies who came to destroy them. A rescue pilot answered simply, "Because we're trying not to become what you believed we were." That sentence quietly spread through countless refugee networks afterward. Far away from Earth, some Alliance worlds now feared retaliation so much that populations began evacuating entire cities. Rumors claimed humanity was preparing revenge attacks using planet-killing weapons. None of it was true. Earth's leadership rejected those proposals immediately. Humanity wanted the war ended, not expanded forever. Still, fear rarely listens to logic. The image of humanity had changed permanently now. For generations, humans were viewed as emotional outsiders struggling to survive among older civilizations. Now they were seen as something entirely different. A hidden power. A species capable of defeating 47 civilizations at once. And worst of all, nobody knew the full limits of their technology anymore. Inside secret military circles across the galaxy, analysts studied battle footage, endlessly searching for answers. How had human ships bypassed shields? How could they disable entire fleets instantly? Why did some weapons appear to bend space itself? No one found clear explanations. That uncertainty frightened governments more than direct defeat. Because an enemy you understand can eventually be challenged again. An enemy you cannot understand becomes a nightmare. Meanwhile, human fleet commanders noticed another strange pattern appearing after the war. Several ancient systems connected to the Martian technology had started activating outside the solar system entirely. Long-range probes detected hidden structures buried inside dead moons and drifting asteroid fields far beyond human territory. The same black metal. The same unknown energy signatures. The ancient civilization connected to Mars had not left behind one facility. They had left an entire network. One researcher studying the discoveries looked deeply unsettled. It's like they expected this war to happen someday. Another scientist answered quietly, "Maybe it already happened before." Those words stayed in people's minds. Because the deeper humanity explored the old systems, the more disturbing similarities they found between their own situation and ancient historical records recovered from the ruins. A powerful civilization rises quickly. The galaxy becomes afraid. Alliances form. War begins. Then everything disappears. No records explained who destroyed the ancient builders. Only scattered warnings remained behind. Warnings humanity was starting to understand far too late. Back in Alliance territory, surrender declarations continued arriving daily. Some species offered full cooperation with Earth. Others begged for protection against their own collapsing governments. Humanity suddenly held more influence than any civilization in modern history. But with that influence came growing fear inside Earth's leadership. Because absolute power changes civilizations. And humanity had already seen what fear and arrogance did to the rest of the galaxy. One evening, during a private meeting beneath Earth's surface, a military advisor asked a question nobody could ignore anymore. What happens if the galaxy decides to unite against us again? The room stayed silent. Not because they lacked answers. Because everyone already knew the truth. After this war, humanity would never again be allowed to appear weak. The old balance was gone forever. Then another urgent transmission arrived from Mars. The ancient systems had activated a sealed archive buried beneath the main complex. Researchers inside reported discovering partial historical recordings from the extinct civilization. The footage was damaged and incomplete, but one scene remained terrifyingly clear. Massive fleets burning across the skies of an unknown world. Dark ships surrounding entire planets. And a final emergency message repeating in a language the systems automatically translated for human researchers. They feared our growth. The recording cut briefly before continuing again. We thought strength would protect us. Another interruption followed. Then the last sentence appeared across every screen inside the chamber. We were wrong. Silence filled the underground complex. Because for the first time since discovering the Martian ruins, humanity finally understood the full warning left behind by the ancient civilization. The technology was never meant to help conquer the galaxy. It was created by a species desperately trying to survive one. And now humanity stood exactly where they once stood long ago. Powerful, feared, and possibly closer to destruction than ever before. The war officially ended 11 days after the invasion began. Not because every battle was finished. Not because every alliance fleet surrendered. But because the galaxy finally understood it could not defeat humanity anymore. Across thousands of systems, governments started withdrawing their remaining forces from human territory. Emergency peace declarations spread through communication networks non-stop. Entire civilizations that once demanded Earth's destruction were now begging for negotiations. And through all of it, humanity stayed strangely calm. That confused many survivors more than the war itself. Most galactic powers expected revenge. They expected human fleets to sweep across weakened systems and claim control over the galaxy after such a massive victory. Instead, Earth did something nobody predicted. Human ships began delivering supplies. Medical fleets entered damaged regions once controlled by the Alliance. Human engineers repaired destroyed civilian stations regardless of which species lived there. Refugee transports received food, medicine, and fuel from the same civilization many had recently tried to erase. At first, many aliens believed it was a trick. Some even refused human aid completely out of fear. But slowly, that fear began changing into something else. Confusion. Because humanity was acting nothing like the monsters the Alliance had described. On one heavily damaged colony world near the outer systems, survivors watched in silence as human workers repaired power generators destroyed during the chaos following the Alliance collapse. A local civilian finally asked one of the engineers the question spreading across the galaxy. Why help us after everything that happened? The human worker wiped dust from his hands before answering. Because if we punish everyone forever, this war never really ends. That answer traveled farther than any military broadcast. Meanwhile, back on Earth, life was slowly returning to normal. Children went back to schools. Cities reopened public transport systems. Civilian ships returned to trade routes that had been silent during the invasion. But something inside humanity had changed. People looked toward the stars differently now. Before the war, many humans believed joining the larger galactic community would eventually bring peace and equality. After the invasion, that innocence disappeared. Humanity understood the truth now. Fear ruled the galaxy more than diplomacy ever had. And fear had nearly destroyed everyone. Inside the Terran Defense Council, difficult conversations continued every day. Humanity had survived, but new problems were growing quickly. The biggest one was simple. Everyone feared humanity now. Alliance governments still standing publicly accepted peace agreements, but intelligence reports revealed secret military programs expanding across multiple systems again. Some civilizations had already started researching weapons specifically designed to counter human technology. Others focused entirely on studying the ancient ruins connected to Mars. The galaxy had learned humanity possessed something extraordinary. Now everyone wanted it. One advisor studying recent reports spoke quietly during a leadership meeting beneath Earth. They may never attack openly again, she said, but they'll spend the next 100 years preparing for the possibility. No one disagreed, because the cycle had already started again. Fear, preparation, distrust. Humanity had escaped destruction, but the galaxy remained unstable. And deep beneath Mars, the ancient systems continued evolving silently. Researchers no longer treated the ruins like simple technology. The machines reacted almost like living systems now. Entire sections of the underground complex changed. Structure without explanation. New hallways appeared where solid walls once stood. The most disturbing part was how the systems responded to humans emotionally. Stressed researchers reported strange reactions from nearby machines. Calm voices sometimes echoed through empty chambers. Certain systems activated faster when humans showed fear or urgency. Nobody understood how it worked. One exhausted scientist finally admitted something many secretly believed already. "We're not studying this technology anymore." He stared toward the glowing black structures surrounding the chamber. "It's studying us." Still, humanity continued learning more from the ancient archive discovered after the war. Fragments of historical records slowly revealed pieces of the extinct civilization's final years. They had once ruled enormous sections of the galaxy through superior technology. Other species feared them but depended on them at the same time. Then everything changed after one massive conflict. The surviving recordings became damaged after that point, but the pattern remained clear. A great alliance formed against them. The war spread everywhere. And eventually, the ancient civilization disappeared completely. No final victory. No surviving empire. Only ruins. One line from the recovered archive unsettled human researchers more than anything else. Power drew attention. Attention brought fear. Fear brought extinction. Those words spread quietly through Earth's highest leadership circles. Humanity had just survived exactly that scenario, which meant one terrifying possibility remained. Whoever destroyed the ancient civilization might still exist somewhere beyond known space. That fear grew stronger after several long-range probes sent beyond the outer sectors vanished without explanation. The probes disappeared near regions connected to old energy signatures matching the Martian ruins. At first, officials blamed technical failure. Then a final damaged transmission arrived from one missing probe. The message lasted only 4 seconds. But it changed everything. A distorted image appeared showing enormous dark structures drifting silently through deep space. They were larger than planets and carried the same black metallic design found inside the Martian ruins. Then the signal ended abruptly. No further contact followed. Inside Earth's command center, silence filled the room after analysts replayed the footage several times. One officer finally spoke. "So the ancient civilization didn't disappear naturally." Another nodded slowly. Something hunted them. That possibility terrified even humanity's military leaders. Because if a force powerful enough to destroy the builders of the Martian system still existed somewhere out there, then humanity's recent victory might have revealed Earth to an enemy far older and more dangerous than the Alliance ever was. But the public never learned the full truth. Officially, humanity announced a new era of peace and reconstruction across the galaxy. Human diplomats worked constantly to stabilize collapsing trade systems and prevent more wars from starting. And surprisingly, many civilizations accepted Earth's leadership willingly. Not because they trusted humanity completely, because humans had shown restraint when nobody expected it. That mattered. Several younger species even began openly supporting closer relations with Earth. They viewed humanity differently from the old empires that ruled through intimidation for centuries. Humans were powerful, yes, but they also rebuilt worlds instead of conquering them. That difference slowly changed galactic opinion. Still, fear never fully disappeared. Across countless systems, children grew up hearing stories about the war. Stories about dark human ships appearing silently from nowhere. Stories about fleets vanishing without a trace. To some, humanity became protectors. To others, a warning. And humanity itself struggled with what it had become. Veterans returning from the war often described the same feeling. They survived. Earth survived. But the victory felt heavy instead of joyful. Too much had changed. One former pilot later explained it during an interview years afterward. "We won because we had no choice. But once the galaxy saw what we could really do, there was no going back." That became humanity's greatest burden. Strength had saved them, but strength also isolated them. Far beneath Mars, another sealed section of the ancient archive finally opened nearly 2 years after the war ended. Researchers entered carefully, expecting more historical records. Instead, they found a single active chamber waiting in darkness. At the center stood a smooth black device still glowing faintly after countless centuries. The moment researchers approached it, the chamber activated automatically. A holographic projection filled the room. For the first time, humanity saw the creators of the ruins clearly. Tall figures stood beneath dark skies while enormous burning structures collapsed behind them. Their faces looked calm, but exhausted, defeated. One of the figures stepped forward and spoke in a language the systems translated instantly into human speech. If you are seeing this, then history repeated itself. The chamber became completely silent. The figure continued. We believed intelligence and strength would guarantee survival. We were wrong. Images appeared around the chamber showing massive wars spreading across stars. Then came another image. Something hidden in darkness beyond the edge of known space. Not clearly visible. Only enormous shadows moving silently between dead worlds. The ancient figure looked directly toward the recording device. The galaxy fears growing civilizations. That fear awakens older things. Several researchers exchanged nervous looks. The message continued. We survived the war against our enemies. We did not survive what came after. Then the hologram flickered violently. The final sentence echoed through the chamber. When they notice you, it is already too late. The recording ended. No one moved for several seconds. Far above Mars, human ships continued crossing peaceful trade routes beneath calm stars. Across the galaxy, civilizations rebuilt slowly after the greatest war in modern history. Most believed the danger had finally passed. But deep beneath the surface of Mars, humanity had just learned the most terrifying truth of all. The 47 civilizations were never the real threat. They were only the beginning,